Welcome to the OSO Spurs podcast. Today, we're going to help you navigate through the noise of Tottenham Hotspur. What transfer rumours are truly validated and real? That Daniel Levy and Vinay Venkatesan interview, what should we be paying attention to in there? And which transfer targets are likely gettable based on our financial situation versus the ones that are probably more there to get you clicking on those articles? And to help me with it all is Joe. How are you, Joe?
I'm great, mate. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Yes, it's been a busy couple of weeks, but excited to get the OSO Spurs content coming back out again.
Yeah, famous man.
It's been busy. Should we start with what's top of most people's mind? I think is the interview, right? There's been a lot of mixed reactions, I'd say, to it, but there seem to be some core bits to unpick in there. Predominantly was our expectation that Vinay Venkatesan would bring an elevated level of PR awareness amongst the fan base. And he seemed to start that by saying to Daniel, go on, say it to the cameras. Say, I want to win the Premier League. He mutters, I want to win the Audi Cup. No, I heard that. Premier League, the Cup, Premier League, Daniel. And he said it. And to be fair to Daniel Levy, he said it. He said, I want to win the Premier League. I want to win the Champions League. That's the goal. What did you make of the interview?
Well, not only did he say it, it got past the editing booth and got past the proof, everyone watching it back and making sure everything was said right. So it's been ticked off as, I guess that's the goal, that's the public goal. And everyone's been wanting this sort of transparency, or even just someone from the club talking to the fans like this for years. And I guess one person in particular has left and someone else has come in and it's seemingly changed. So in that side of things, just that they're talking to us is fantastic, I think. Yeah,
that's the key. I think we've all said lack of communication has been a struggle, and with Donna Cullen leaving, this maybe paves the way for Vinay Venkatesan to set that new PR strategy for Spurs. And if you're listening and you're unaware of what Donna's role was at Tottenham, she appeared to be the main person in charge of our public relations communications. So previously, if you had issues with that, you're likely to see a change. Whether that's going to be for better or for worse, we don't know yet. But I think it's fair to say it's been a good start. Elsewhere in there was a clear explanation as to why we made the manager change and what went into that decision. They mentioned there was a 10-point data list that they followed when selecting the new manager. We don't know what those 10 points were, but Johan Langer decided that Thomas Frank was the man to go for based on this algorithm or data set that left him top of that list. You, on reflection, looking at that, do you think the club, did the right thing and kind of sharing our approach to how we look at managers and players under this new regime?
Yeah, I guess it doesn't really show us too much. You would assume that they're doing something like this, especially in the modern era of most clubs are using data as their baseline at least to pick someone. And they mentioned it was an emotional choice to get rid of Ange, and they also said that Frank was clearly the top, and which they're obviously going to say those things too. So there's a bit of PR speaking there. But I mean, it's good that they're acknowledging that people want them to do their due diligence, but I would expect that at bare minimum anyway. So, but I've definitely forgotten about Ange now. I'm sorry to anyone else in Australia that it hasn't and is still upset about it, but I've cut my hair off and I've got the Thomas Frank haircut just to support him, so on board.
It's the thing is with football, I'm sure there must be a psychological study that will be done or has been done somewhere, and that will show that when it comes to football, we become unbelievably obstinate in our opinions. Nothing will change it, no matter what we're presented with, and that's going to be the case as a reaction to this interview in some respects. Some people have made their mind up. There is nothing that the owners can do because of decisions they made in the past to rebuild that trust. And that trust is broken for them. For others, it is a step in the right direction, and they're excited for it. And it's a similar story with the managers, right? Some people will feel until they can clearly see whether Frank is going to work out or not, the managerial decision was right or wrong. So let's move on to the next bit, though, shall we, Joe?
Well, just quickly on that point about people making their mind up, you can see who the people are stuck in their ways by their reaction to this. There's been calls for all these things of sort of better PR, to get Daniel Levy less involved in the footballing side of things, even though they did mention in the interview that he's still going to be very much involved. All these things have been said. Now, the proof is still to be proven, but everything seems like it's going down that right track. And anyone that can't acknowledge that, I think, is just a bit disingenuous and is just stuck in their ways, because this is what people have been asking for. So maybe just take a break on just being hating on things and just let them play out now, because it seems to be going in the right direction. And I don't think the club needs, or the fan base needs, to have this much hate around them. You can see as soon as that interview was done, I knew that comments online would be, it's all lip service, or nothing's going to change while he's still in charge, sort of thing. So allow it to change if you want it to change, and if you want it to change and it does change, accept that it has changed. I think that's my sort of feeling towards this procedure, and I do feel like it is changing, because everything is going in that direction that has been asked for. I guess the real change would we spend heaps of money on players, and that's what people want at the end of the day, isn't it? As much money spent as possible.
Yeah, look, two things make fans happy, I think, in the modern world of football. Well, three things do. Trophies is top of that list. Consistently good performances in the league is another. But also what people deem as ambition in a transfer market. Now, we all have different lines of what ambition is. Some people, have a more pragmatic view and long-term view to transfers. Others want to see us behaving more aggressively for short-term success, regardless of what, maybe the risks might be associated to that. They're not concerned. They're not looking at Tottenham as a business. They're looking at Tottenham as purely a football club, and others are looking at it as both.
Yep.
And that's fine. But I agree. I think the thing we've got to do is just start moving away from these divides, stop looking at things with too much opinion until we see more evidence to make a educated opinion at the end of it. Because that interview, I think, is a big step in the right direction.
Yep.
It's what everyone's asked for. Now, let's see. You've got to give that not just 6 months to play out. They're clearly not saying they're going to win the Champions League and the Premier League in the first season, but they're saying they're committing to a plan and a new era. So let's give this a few years and let's continue to look for the right decisions that move towards those lofty goals and ambitions, which are to win the league and the Champions League. And if we all unite as a fan base, we're more likely to get there more quickly. I think people underestimate how much the atmosphere can be influenced around the club and inside those walls by the environment the fans create. And we've got a great opportunity to help our team push forward in this era. It's exciting.
Yeah, absolutely.
So transfers, though, good, consistent recruitment underpins an easier existence for any coach and the opportunity to succeed. And there's a lot of rumours going around. Joe, I think you want to talk about Vicario in particular. I've seen the latest is from Tom Barkley that those rumours are not true. He's not going anywhere. Spurs aren't selling. But what did you want to say about that topic?
I just wanted to sort of touch on that it seemed like it was just a snowballing effect of a rumour and then people were just passing it on. It would make absolutely no sense. But then you have people sort of pointing out, he's not good at this, he's good at this. Vicario is a fantastic shot stopper, one of the best in the league. And then people will say, well, he's terrible from crosses or corners. Well, he's actually in the first percentile for crosses stopped. So he's not bad at it. It's just that there was one moment in the Europa League final that he headed the ball clear rather than catching it. And then a few moments across the 2 years, and it's consistently got better. And that one to me is just, I'd throw that one in the bin. It's not a rumour. It's nothing. There's no way. It would just be a poor strategy too. There's no reason to get rid of him. So why waste the time on getting rid of him and buying a new keeper? And when we've got a really solid keeper room of Vicario, Kinski and Austin, I think that's a great room to have going forward into this. And Vicario's shown he just gets better and better each year. So I'm assuming he's going to get better next season too.
Yeah, his biggest strength is probably his personality, isn't it? He's
absolutely
always pushing to improve. I do think it would be a slightly unexpected decision if we went and moved him on, because it feels like we've got much bigger priorities than nitpicking Vicario's why he's not perfect. And like you said, he's solid. He's a good keeper. Fine, he's not perfect, but we don't have many perfects in many roles, and we're not going to.
How many players are perfect?
Exactly.
The whole league.
Yeah. But I guess it also depends, though. Some things in football are kind of, maybe Frank is hell-bent on a certain goalkeeper, they're available, he can move fast for them, someone wants Vicario already. Sometimes things can work like that, but it doesn't sound like that's the case. So, and the more reputable sources are now confirming that these rumours are not true. So if you're listening and wondering if that's true, it's probably not, based on what we know right now. Same goes for Mbeumo, the Brentford winger. I think we've spoken to 2 Brentford journalists about this. We've asked Ben Jacobs. We've asked numerous other people. The feedback has generally been that he doesn't have a particular desire to come to Tottenham. We don't have a particular desire to pay those huge fees. The rumour that we spent £70 million in a bid towards him was false. And the only way he could possibly join Spurs would be if Man United pull out, because that is his preference. Brentford drop their asking price, and Spurs want him so much that they're still willing to pay quite a chunky upfront deal, which doesn't align with their financial situation right now. So I just can't. Do we just rule that one out and move on? I think people are just more excited by. He was one of Frank's favourites at Brentford. It'd be one of those classic. It shows real ambition to go get 2 players, even though you only need really 1 in a certain role. Just go get both anyway, and drop 150 million quid on them.
He's obviously really good, but he most likely won't come to us. And I think that also rules out anyone else from Brentford too. There's no way they're going to sell Mbeumo and Vissa in the same window. That would be probably suicide for them. And then, I mean, maybe Collins the centre-back, but again, there's sort of reports coming out of Brentford too. They don't want to sell anyone to Frank, isn't there?
Yeah, that's it. They've left on good terms with Frank, but he's got no big desire to go and take his old players.
Mm-hmm.
You got to think as well, Frank's whole model is getting players to the ceiling of their potential. So he'll feel those players are now at the top end of their value because of what they've done with them at Brentford. He's much better off finding 2 or 3 players that have that same ceiling and getting them to that level over the next year. Because 2 or 3 players, if you spend all your budget on 3 £60 million players in Tottenham and spend 180 million, you've most likely used up your transfer budget and you've still got issues in the squad. We need 5 players.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't see a world in which to do that. Semenyo, though, does sound more realistic. We are probably going to make at least 1 signing in that kind of money bracket. We need that alternative winger, don't we, as well, to Johnson.
Well, he's the kind of opposite of Johnson, isn't he? Johnson is just finisher, and Semenyo's probably only downfall is his not performing up to his expected goals. I'm not sure. I haven't looked in a while. I actually looked at that sort of halfway through the end of last season, so he might have gone up a bit on that. But from memory, I don't think he was that clinical. But other than that, his work rate is fantastic. He's great on the ball. He's strong. He's powerful. Good crosser. So I think he'd be a good addition. And he's sort of one that makes the most sense, I think, too, in terms of what's available out there.
Quite agree. The reality is, as well, with these transfers, is we know how Johan Lange operates, right? We had it with Kinski. Like, no one saw it coming. We were in the concourse of the stadium, and then suddenly, we signed a keeper.
And he's playing tomorrow.
Looking for the lineup. Yeah, it's just reality that we're not going to have that level of, what's the right word for this? We're not going to get a run up to a player joining Spurs like we used to. Like, you used to kind of, the rumours start, they get stronger and stronger. You get the right feeling it's going to happen. I think with Spurs, it's typically within 48 hours of them joining, the news suddenly starts to hit. At best case scenario. Mm-hmm. So we're probably not going to have that this summer to a level. So if you want to go and dive into the rumours, we've been looking around. None of them are really validated as anything beyond conjecture. And the only one that seems to have enough reputable journalists circling around it to say, yeah, that's probably got some legs is the Semenyo one from what I can see.
Yeah, sorry to burst the bubble, because that is, people like it. It's exciting. It's exciting to imagine the potential, because there's no negative to imagination of what could happen if we signed all these players all at once. And that's, I guess, also with Eze too. It's, you were saying just off before we got on here that we probably can't do that contract or the spend all the money all at once on him.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, so the summary of the finances effectively is we've got £292 million in headroom for PSR and FFP, but that's just headroom following a set of rules that cap your spending or control your spending. What we actually have to look at is Tottenham's cash flow. And looking at the 24-25 season, we're expecting a turnover of 630 million. We've got £23 million coming in from player sales. We've got costs of £408 million, which leaves us with a net £222 million in cash flow. But we owe £188 million on transfers, so we can't spend that money that we owe. So that leaves us with £32 million to play with. Now, I know that doesn't sound like much for players, but you typically only pay a marginal amount up front, and then it's an obligation to buy or whatever it is. So you don't need loads of cash up front to commit to bigger deals. But the challenge is with Eze is Palace are in a luxurious position, and it's the same with Mbeumo. When you've got competition for players, the clubs then command more up front because it's better for them. So those players are probably less achievable for us. I would say Spurs have the option to action a credit facility with HSBC, which would give them £50 million more in cash in the form of a loan. Whether they do that or not, we won't know. There's nothing in there looking at the T's and C's, but it was said in Spurs' annual report that this is a revolving credit facility of up to £50 million of HSBC, started in 2024 and can be opened until 2027. But it was untouched. It's untouched until now. So we won't get a notification if it's activated, basically. So we won't know what they're doing with that until
It would
next
be,
year.
going back to the interview, a sign of intent if they were to do that deal, I think. It'd be, we're going to chuck all this money down, because partially of it is the release clause as well, and they have to talk to him and then talk to the club, and then he's got to talk to the club, and then then someone else can come in and get involved in it. So it's a very complicated one. So the Semenyo deal is probably easier. Who would I prefer? Probably Eze. I think he would just, maybe because he seems like a Tottenham player and he look good in a Tottenham shirt, I think. But they would both be great as well. But we can't have both. We should surely not. It'd be silly with Tell and Odebear, and unless
it's so much of it depends on two main players, right?
Mm-hmm.
If we get a big offer for Son and we get a big offer for Romero, things change, and that gives us more ability to obviously spend more. Sonny, I think we'll be planning to build around anyway, but I think Romero, if he was to go, that would be okay, we didn't expect to lose him this year. We don't expect to lose him this year because he's still got 2 years left in his contract, this season and the following one, and the year after 3 years, right? Actually, I believe his contract. I'll have to look that up just after this. Should know that. But there's no rush to sell in this window anyway. We could still command a good fee next summer transfer window when he's got 1 year left. Sorry, just checked. I think the club will be thinking, let's avoid some change where possible. So we're not trying to leave ourselves too much to do in one window. If we're moving on one, it would probably be Son Heung-min. But let's not push Romero out unnecessarily.
No. I mean, the Son one is probably more likely to get an offer, but it's whether he wants to go to Saudi. I don't know if that his personal thoughts on that. None of us know that, or how it fits his brand, because obviously he's got a brand to think about in Korea. So whether that suits, but he'll make a lot of money. But it's never seemed like Sonny cares too much about getting that much money and just making.
No,
and then. Sorry, you go and finish that. Go on that. What were you going to say?
No, it's more about his career than it is money for him. But go on, sorry.
And then Romero is, who's going to put up the money? Because you see rumours coming like they want him, they really want him, and they're going to put in 38 million, and they're going to try get Romero to turn his head. And it's like, even if Romero wants to go, there's no way they're getting him for that price. They need to double that, essentially, to even have the conversation start. So. I just can't see the Romero one happening, and I don't even know if he can have a tantrum out of the club. I guess, it's going
to be one to watch. Let's see. I think a lot will depend on how they feel with Frank when he's in the door, and the emotions are settled. He might be an emotional person, and that initial reaction for that message might have been emotional.
I guess the thought process now is they're both going to stay until otherwise, and then what's our plan for fans, not for the club? They'll have a better insight on this, obviously, but for our fans, what are we going to do with them both staying? And if that's the case, I can't see us bringing in two sort of 10 winger forwards, even though they can sort of play as a striker in Frank's system, like Visser and Mbeumo did, but I can't see that happening with all the young guys that we're trying to bring up through and raise their ceiling, because their ceilings are so high.
Agree.
Yeah.
It's going to be a 3+ year plan on this project. So we've got to think a bit like that as well. And if we can accelerate it by having a good first window, brilliant. But I think that's it, Joe, isn't it? That's all the news we've got. So
yeah, I think so.
Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
You sick podcasts and football shows that are just a bunch of people spouting opinions with no substance. It's always toxic negativity. It's toxic positivity. There's no substance. You don't come out of it feeling like you've learned anything new. Well, that's why we created OSO Spurs. It's the Thinking Fans podcast. I'm Jim, and I'm the host. But I am only a sum of many brilliant parts. We have A-licensed coaches like JJ to help us dissect how games changed and how coaches are adapting. We have people who work in finance to tell us how much can Spurs actually spend and why we don't leave it all down to opinions when we discuss these things. We always look for the facts. We go and search long and hard to find people who've actually worked at Spurs. We talk to ex-coaches from Tottenham. We talk to ex-coaches from players we've recently signed to get you a deeper level look into them than you're going to get on a typical show on the internet. But we depend on our members to get this kind of content. To raise the bar and provide you with higher quality content, we need to find a revenue stream that is sustainable for us. And that is where you come in as members. You are the lifeblood of our show. We all do this for free as members of the show, and we need the money to survive and keep it running. So if you would like to be a member, we will promise you back an extra 2 videos per week as a minimum, and first access to our daily videos that come out as well, alongside other things like access to our WhatsApp groups where you will find those 8 licensed coaches and those finance experts and the rest of the panel to have a chat to about Spurs. So welcome to the show, and I hope you get all you're looking for and you like to stick around. Up the Spurs.